We need to talk about Bitcoin because, according to some deep dive analyses, it's hiding a couple of pretty serious dangers. Think of them as ticking time bombs, threatening everyone from the earliest adopters to the brand new investors. So let's get into it and see exactly what's at stake.
You know, it all starts with this mystery that's got crypto analysts completely spooked. We're talking about Bitcoin wallets that have been gathering dust for a decade, since the very early days, and they are suddenly springing to life. These aren't small accounts. We're talking billions of dollars being moved. So the question is, what on earth is going on?
And really, this sudden activity leads to a huge, critical question. Are the original owners just remembering their old passwords and deciding to cash in? Or has the thief found some kind of master key to these digital fortresses? Honestly, the answer to that could shake the very idea of Bitcoin security to its core.
Okay, so let's dive into that first potential time bomb, a crack in Bitcoin's original code. The evidence is mounting that these old, reawakened wallets are all being targeted through a very specific historical weakness, a ghost from the past that could literally empty a wallet today.
Now, this timeline, this is absolutely crucial. See, almost all of the wallets being drained were created inside this specific window of time. Before 2014, some popular web and Android wallets had a really big flaw. And even though it was patched way back in 2013, any wallet that was made before that patch and was never touched again, well, it's still a sitting duck. So the problem boils down to this nerdy-sounding concept called low entropy. Here's the simple version. Your private key, the thing that gives you access to your coins, is supposed to be generated from a truly random number. So random it's impossible to guess. But with low entropy, that random number wasn't actually that random at all. It was predictable.
And you can really see the difference here. A secure key has a practically infinite number of possibilities. You could never, ever guess it. But a vulnerable key, it comes from a much smaller pool of options, small enough that a powerful enough computer can just try every single combination until, click, the lock opens. It's just a matter of time and processing power. So who needs to be worried? Basically, anyone who created a wallet before 2014 using one of these early web services or an old Android app. Back in 2013, the advice was to rotate your keys, which just means move your funds to a new secure wallet. If you didn't do that, you're still exposed.
All right, so you might be thinking, okay, I get it. The risk is just for a bunch of old, dusty wallets that have a known problem. And yeah, that's a huge deal for the people who own them. But that's not the whole story. Not even close. What if there's another time bomb? A much bigger, much more dangerous one. One that isn't some bug in the code, but a fatal flaw baked into the very economic design of Bitcoin itself. Now we're going to pivot to a second, chilling analysis. This one argues that Bitcoin's fundamental structure creates a totally different kind of threat, one that doesn't care if your wallet is old or new. It affects every single person in the system. The whole argument hangs on this idea of a negative-sum game. Think about it like this. In a poker game, the money just moves from one player to another. The total amount on the table stays the same. But in a negative-sum game, it's like the house is constantly taking chips off the table. Money is always being removed, which guarantees that over time, the players as a group have to lose. So where are all these chips going? Well, in Bitcoin's case, it's energy. The amount of electricity the Bitcoin network uses is just staggering. It's on par with the entire country of Argentina. And this isn't some optional feature. It is the fundamental cost of just keeping the lights on. And the cost is absolutely astronomical. This analysis estimates that it can cost over $100,000 in real-world electricity and hardware just to produce a single Bitcoin. That represents a massive, non-stop river of actual cash flowing out of the system forever. So that just begs the question, right? If billions and billions of dollars in real money are being burned every single year just to run the thing, where's all that money coming from? How is the system not broke already? Well, according to this analysis, the answer lies in how cash actually moves through the Bitcoin ecosystem. And the source claims it looks a lot like a classic Ponzi scheme. Here's how it breaks down. Step 1. New investors come in and inject fresh, real cash by buying Bitcoin. That new cash then allows the miners, the people who are paid in new Bitcoin, to immediately sell that Bitcoin to pay their gigantic electricity bills. And crucially, that new cash is also the only way that early investors can actually cash out their profits.
So what this really means is that Bitcoin's price doesn't go up because it's creating any actual value. It goes up because it has to. The system needs a constant and actually an accelerating stream of new money just to pay its own running costs.
This entire economic model is what's known as the greater fool theory. It's the idea that you can make money on an asset, not because it has any real worth, but simply because you're betting you can find a greater fool who will buy it from you for more than you paid. It's a game of financial hot potato.
And this, of course, leads us to the terrifying endgame of this analysis. If the whole system depends on an endless supply of new money, what happens when that money starts to dry up? What happens when the music stops?
You see, Bitcoin's own code creates what the source calls an inevitable squeeze. Every 4 years, there's a halving, where the reward for miners gets cut in half. For them to stay in business, the price of Bitcoin basically has to double. If it doesn't, they're forced to rely on higher transaction fees, which makes the network expensive and useless for actual transactions. The system is literally programmed to require higher and higher prices just to not collapse.
And this analysis doesn't pull any punches about the conclusion. It says that once the new investment money can no longer cover both the massive energy costs and the early investors cashing out, the price will inevitably collapse. And because so much real money has already been drained out of the system to pay for all that electricity, the vast majority of people left will be facing catastrophic losses. So we're left with two really powerful threats. One is a technical ghost from Bitcoin's past that could drain old wallets in an instant. The other is a brutal critique of its entire economic foundation. But they both point to the exact same critical question. In a system that absolutely requires an endless flow of new buyers to survive, who's the final person left holding the bag when the money runs out?